We are calling to order the February 2nd City Council meeting, and I am going to actually start by, I see Councilor Jordan has a nice flag behind him, so you Zoomers can look at that. I have a flag behind me. We are going to actually start with invocation and pledge of allegiance, like a real meeting, and I'm happy to do it. Father God, thank you for this opportunity to serve our community. I lift up this gathered group of leaders and pray for your grace and guidance. Please grant us wisdom and discernment as we do the work of the people. I also pray for your protection upon our military, first responders, and our community members. Thank you for all of your provision. In your son's name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. The screen switches over to the agenda. Okay, tonight we have a very special presentation, and I'm very happy to have a Hometown Hero Award recipient in our attendance tonight. And actually, I'm just going to start, so a couple people want to speak to it, so I'm going to start with Jamie, if you want to come on up.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Stickle, and I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Canby. And I wanted to take an opportunity to address Council this evening, as I have had the distinct pleasure of working with Carol Palmer for nearly 9 years. Today, as I was searching for the right words for tonight, I came across a quote that said, "Volunteers don't get paid, not because they are worthless, but because they are priceless." As someone who regularly works with volunteers, I can attest to this sentiment. However, as someone who regularly works with Carol, I can note that she would hate this sentiment because she gives from her heart and because it's the right thing to do, not because she wants to be seen as priceless. She and I have formed an unlikely team over the years where I serve as the eternal cheerleader and Carol is someone who chose to get her PhD after she retired. In fact, we were laughing just yesterday about how her efforts in planning and pragmatism are countered by my optimistic belief that things will just come together and work out. I remember the first time we talked about a big project and I said it would be easy. Carol noted nothing about the project would be easy. And in fact, she scolded me for saying that it might be so. But she learned over time that for me, easy was my way of piecing something together to make it doable. And now if you talk to her, you'll hear the word easy creep into her language more often than not. Carol has taught me a lot over the years, and together we have accomplished many things. Now, I won't belabor my point with providing a list of all of the projects she has worked on and led over the years, nor will I bore you with the thousands upon thousands of grant dollars she has helped secure for Canby. But I will offer this. In March 2018, we launched the Women's Heritage Trail, which was the first heritage trail in the state of Oregon solely dedicated to the efforts of women. It was a compilation of research and efforts led by Carol. We worked tirelessly and we hoped that things would come together. When someone suggested that we invite former Governor Barbara Roberts, the first woman governor in the state of Oregon, I don't think that Carol or I thought that she would actually show up, but she did show up and she spoke at the event, graciously so. And I have this distinct memory of taking a moment to just take a deep breath and really be present in what was happening. I knew that it was a big moment. But when I look back on that day, my thoughts don't go to Governor Barbara Roberts or being part of a project that was the first in the state. And please don't get me wrong, those were wonderful moments. But my favorite moment was being able to introduce Carol Palmer. I used the quote, "Here's to strong women. May we know them. May we know them. May we be them. May we raise them." So thank you for letting me be a part of a wonderful night to honor someone who is a strong woman in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. There are a couple other people who want to speak to this. The first, I just want to explain to the viewers that the Canby City Council established the Hometown Hero Award program as a means to provide official recognition for the city, from the city, for those individuals or organizations who, through their unselfish efforts, contribute in some significant manner to the quality of life in the community and/or to the community betterment and the advancement of community goals and vision. Award recipients are presented with a certificate from the city in recognition for their specific deeds, actions, or contributions to the Canby community, which fall within 3 categories. Those categories are community involvement, community leadership, and noteworthy citizen actions. In addition to the recipient receiving a certificate from the city, a special plaque on display at City Hall has an engraved nameplate for each recipient of the Hometown Hero Award. Carol is very much deserving of all of those accolades. Next, to speak to this is Judy Jerosh. Yeah, Judy.
Greetings from Arizona, Carol. Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to say a couple words. So I am fairly new to Canby, going on 4 years. And as you've heard before, there are many things that are very visible around town that Carol's been involved with or led or pushed through. But there are many, many things that are behind the scenes that she does that she doesn't get credit for, because hardly anyone knows about it. And she does so modestly, but very professionally. And so one of the first things she did for me that made me feel a super welcome to the town was she had coffee with me, and I wanted to know about what opportunities there were to be an active member of the community. And so she went through all the boards and commissions and with me to give me some background about which ones I might want to be a part of or which ones not. And no, I won't share that detail with you, although you'd find it interesting. And that helped a lot. She was like my ambassadress to being an active member of the community and just totally on her own. I didn't really even know her that well back then. So just that sort of thing. And then I think, as Jamie mentioned about grant dollars, responsible for tens of thousands of grant dollars. And prior to being involved in the Heritage and Landmark Commission with Carol, I had never even seen a grant application. But Carol taught me how to write them and then guided me along the way and made herself available on her personal time if I had any questions, and also about the many reports you have to do for grant dollars. That's called spreading the love, baby. That sort of thing just exacerbates through the town, to help the town in so many ways. And then also just little things like there was a new community member that had moved into a historic home and had some questions about it. And Carol just, agreed to meet that person at the Depot Museum just to talk about the history of their specific home. Those are the sort of things behind the scenes that I see played out over and over and over that she does so quietly and modestly, but it has huge, huge, huge impact on our town. So thank you, Carol, for the visible things you do and for the quiet behind the scenes things you do. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Now we have Peggy. Peggy Sigler. Oh, she's not on the list anymore. Oh, she's not on it. Okay.
I'm here.
There you are.
Takes a minute to get there. So, hi, good evening, counselors. I am Peggy Sigler, and as Judy started the presentation, I will send greetings from Mexico to you. So I have long been involved in preserving our local history. And to Carol, our hometown hero, congratulations. I was so happy when Carol moved to town. And she called me and asked for one of those coffee meetings. And so we sort of hammered out where we'd been and where the community was going in preservation. Thank you, Carol, on behalf of those of us who 30 years ago asked City Council to, quote, take care of our old buildings, and on behalf of those generations yet to come. Thank you for revitalizing the Historic Review Board, for researching, writing, and bringing Canby's history to life with community programs, for continually working to preserve our buildings and the stories they tell, for representing Canby's past at the county and the state levels, and for nurturing the political will to keep this work going. Thank you, councilors, for having that political will that's needed to preserve our past and for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. Once again, thank you and congratulations, Carol.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody in the room that wants to speak to us before I read this agenda? Okay, well, Hometown Hero Award awarded to Carol Palmer in recognition of your outstanding community leadership as demonstrated by your countless hours volunteering and helping fellow community members. For this and all of you who contributed has resulted in positive benefits to the community and improved the welfare of the citizens of the city of Canby. With sincere thanks and appreciation from a most grateful and appreciative community.
Okay, so why don't you,
Put it over here.
yeah, we'll just do a little dance. Do a little dance. And do you want to take your mask off?
Oh, yeah.
So do I. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. Excellent. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Carol, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I was going to do that.
Okay, sure. Any chair or
Carol, would you like to share with the community some words?
what?
I was asking if you'd like to share with community some words.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's incredible and actually sort of wonderful to get an award for doing something you really love doing. So that's sort of a like chocolate on chocolate. It's lovely. But I do have to say a couple of things. First of all, a bunch of the credit for this goes to Jamie. She's just been a super partner throughout the whole ordeal. Ordeal is probably not the right word I want to use here. And certainly, thank you, journey. That's exactly what I should be saying. And the other thing, the other group that I have to thank is all of the people who have served on the Heritage and Landmark Commission. There's just been a great group of folks from, I think about Kelly Harms taking over as the recorder for us, and Jennifer Giller stepping up to be the chair, Tony Crawford, whose idea it was, by the way, credit where credit is due. Tony was the one that said, think big, Carol, we should invite Governor Roberts. So thank you, Tony, and for convincing me in a very gentle but firm way that anytime you can have kids at an event, you're going to bring their parents and their grandparents, and it's always going to be a success. So I owe Tony a lot, and I want to make sure I recognize that. Also, the city staff has just been wonderful to work with. There was so much support, and I think back to people like Kim Schaefer, who was our great city recorder, and of course we have another great one now too, but who saved me from getting in trouble so many times. And of course,
She was our chief babysitter.
yeah, she was. She's great. And Jerry Nelson and the whole public works team helping us get through the cemetery cleanings and making sure that we followed all of the rules, but was so willing to work with us when we hired the contractors to work in the cemetery. So, and of course, folks like, again, Judy Jarosh and the people behind the scenes that have been whispering in my ear and giving me information, like Nora Clark and Peggy Sigler and others in the community. So again, I owe a lot of people, and this is a great community with a lot of folks who want to step up and work with us and collaborate on projects that they know will benefit the community. So it's really been my pleasure to do all of this. And thank you so much.
Thank you for all you do, Carol.
Thank you.
Are there any council members who have any comments for Carol before we let her go out of the building if she wants to? Okay. This is the, moving on the agenda to the next item is citizen input. We have Mr. Pavan on the line, I believe. Thank you, Carol.
Hello again, long time no see. This is Jason Patton, 1040 North Birch Street in Canby. I just wanted to talk tonight. We are gearing up for the city budget, and it's only a mere few months away. And I find it ironic that I chose to speak tonight after the joint planning commission and city council meeting, where we were talking extensively about traffic and our street system and how that is being undergoing a tremendous amount of pressure and how we're going to pay for all that stuff. And so I'm going to start beating the drum again, as I have for many years, that we desperately need to address the street maintenance fee. There was a presentation a few months ago about how much money the city has given up by allowing that fee to be stagnant for a decade or more, a little over a decade. And with inflation as it is now lost even more money. So therefore, I implore the council and city staff, and I believe this is one of the items on your retreat, you really need to prioritize looking at that fee and making adjustments, because very quickly we will be in the same situation that the city was in that pushed the commission that created the fee and presented the fee to the city back 10 or 12 years ago. And it does not say much for the folks that put the time and effort into trying to come up with a solution to ignore it and have it become a problem again. So that's it. I just wanted to bring it back to the top of the pile that you really need to talk about this, and you really need to look at adding that fee to the fee schedule for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Council President, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the December 1st, 2021 City Council regular meeting and the reappointment of David Horax to the Canby Utility Board for a term expiring on February 28th, 2025.
Do I have a second? Looks like Councilor Bangs, second. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
We're looking for a second for the consent agenda. Anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Spoon. It's been moved by Councilor Garland and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve the consent agenda that was the approval of the minutes of the December 1st, 2021 City Council regular meeting and the reappointment of David Horax to the Canby Utility Board for a term to expire on February 28th, 2025. All those in favor? Passes 6-0. Next on the agenda, we have considerance of ordinance 1567. And it looks like Scott is going to present.
John, thank you, Council President Hensley and the members of the City Council. Good evening. This is a second reading. You approved the first reading at your last meeting. Todd Wood, our Transit Director, gave you a report on this. As a quick reminder, this is an agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation, a grant award that we're receiving to improve 10 bus stops along 99E within our city and within our urban growth boundary. The project is tied to ODOT's upcoming project to resurface and improve 99E through Canby. So it's going to be coordinated with that bigger project. We will install shelters and benches at 9 of the 10 stops and a bench at one of the stops. And then the city will take ownership of the shelters and benches and will be responsible for maintaining these. There is no new information. No other feedback has been received. I did want to let you know, though, some questions came up at the last meeting from council about the possibility, I guess, of ordering some of this equipment for the shelters in advance before we get to the time that the project is going to be done, given inflating costs of items and lead time and all of that. And Todd Wood and I had some additional conversations since the last meeting. I just wanted to let you know a little bit more about that. So the question was kind of around the idea of ordering these shelters in advance and then us storing them somewhere. And so after some further discussion, so what I understand is we are still waiting on the final specifications from ODOT. They will need to approve those specifications. So we can't do anything until we receive those specs because we don't know exactly what the specs are to order. But once we have those, then we can start taking a look at this idea of maybe perhaps ordering some things with a little bit of lead time. Some of the stops are going to need different sizes of shelters due to right-of-way issues and that. So there's some details still being refined. When we have that information, Mr. Wood is going to look to work with our Public Works Director, Jerry Nelzine, and perhaps find a place where there's some safe and dry storage at our Public Works facility until the time that they'd be installed. So we are going to follow up and look at that idea. I think there were some just some concerns about some of the timing in terms of when we can order and when we've got the final specifications, but I just wanted you to know that that was in motion, and so you can be assured that we're working on that idea. And so with that, with that, I would recommend approval of the second reading and passing this ordinance, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we do have a hand up, Councilor Spoon. Question, Scott?
Yeah, I move to adopt ordinance number 1567, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into agreement number 34634 with ODOT for 99E bus stop improvements in the city.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and by Councilor Spoon and seconded by Councilor Bangs to adopt ordinance number 1567, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into agreement number 34634 with ODOT for 99E bus stops improvements in the city of Canby. Any further discussion or question? Seeing none, all those in favor, it's a roll call vote.
Roll call.
Counselor Bajorn,
Aye.
Counselor Bangs,
Aye.
Council President Hensley,
Aye.
Counselor Parker,
Yes.
Counselor Spoon,
She was muted, but her mouth said aye.
Aye.
Counselor Barwig,
Aye.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Thank you, Maya. Thanks, councilors. Next on the agenda is to consider ordinance number 1568, ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Barbara Pro Tree Expert in the amount of $67,500 and declaring an emergency. This is the first reading. Scott?
Thank you again, Council President. Yes, a first reading on a contract with Arbor Pro Tree Experts in the amount of $67,500 for the removal of 30 trees in the city of Canby in our parks. And let's see, trees at some of our parks and our swim center and the adult center area. So we gave you a full report and had some good discussion at your last meeting about this. Mr. Nelzine and Mr. Snyder from Parks Public Works were here to kind of walk through that. So I won't go into great length about this, but just to say that this is the follow-up action that we told you about. And this is actually the contract. We are in need of removing these trees after a lengthy evaluation process and a lot of work with FEMA so that we can received some emergency funding for, I think, most of this work, actually. These trees are in need of removal because of damage from the ice and snowstorm from about a year ago. And it's unfortunate that, a lot of these trees are, I'm sure, ones that are valued greatly by our community members. They're in our public places. And of course, we hate to have to remove trees, but this is a life and safety issue. They have been evaluated as being dangerous and in need of, if they are not removed, we would have serious concerns about safety and the welfare of our community members and liability for the city. And so we worked thoroughly with FEMA, and these recommendations came from a joint process where city and FEMA worked together. We will be doing some communication about this with our community. What we're asking you for is a first reading tonight, and then followed by a second reading at your next meeting on February 16th, where we're asking you to declare an emergency and do an emergency passage of the ordinance at that meeting, which means we'd waive the typical 30 days after the second reading. The reason for that is twofold. One, again, because it's a safety and welfare issue, and we want to expedite the process as best we can. The second is there is a timeline with FEMA that we need to meet if we are to receive our reimbursement funding from them. And so we're asking you that you would pass the first ordinance tonight, but then with your second reading on February 16th, you would declare an emergency passage of the ordinance. And I believe that is what I wanted to tell you about it. Unless you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I see hands up. Councilor Banks?
No, I'm ready to make a motion. I would just emphasize, as Scott said, that we certainly don't seek to remove trees in Canby. And like, we just have to do this. It's not an optional tree removal. It's a crisis response to a crisis that happened a year ago. Saying that, I move to pass ordinance 1568, authorizing the city administration to execute a contract with Arbor Pro Tree Expert in the amount of $67,500 and declaring an emergency to a second reading on February 16th.
I will second, and I do have discussion.
So it's been moved by Councilor Banks and seconded by Councilor Barwig to pass ordinance number 1568, ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Arbor Pro Tree Expert in the amount of $67,500 and declare an emergency to come up for second reading February 16th, 2022. Councilor Barwig, your question.
Yeah, Scott, thank you for the staff report. In the report, it mentioned FEMA had committed $30,000 towards the project. We're a little bit over that, but stating that if we obtain comparable quotes in excess, they'll honor the bid process and pay the balance. So, were we able to get other bids to get more money from FEMA, or are they just covering the $30,000 with us covering the additional $37,000? That's question one. So I'll let you answer that first. Then I have question two after that.
My understanding is that as I understand it, we will. This is the process whereby which we're following the appropriate FEMA process that we'll be able to ask for the full reimbursement. The $30,000 was kind of a first estimate limit that they gave us. It's just a process issue, really. And so my understanding is that with this contract, this in effect, I think meets their bidding standard that they're asking for. So we'll be doing follow-up. It's all reimbursement at any rate. So we get to go back and essentially plead our case to have them hopefully pay for the full amount. And it sounds, from what I understand, it sounds like they will cover that all or most of that amount.
Great, thank you. And then as far as the trees, excuse me, obviously it's a lot of wood. Is it a possibility of being able to donate the wood as firewood to those in need throughout the community, or instead of just having it chipped up, It seems like a lot of wood to send through a chipper. So I'm curious if we can do something more useful than just chipping it.
I think that is a very thoughtful question, Councilor Varwig, and one that we have discussed. I think Joe is at the ready to correct me if I steer off course, but my understanding is that because this is a FEMA sponsored project and we're working under their guidelines, we have to, the tree removal company has to take the wood, the fallen wood, to a FEMA approved recycling facility of some sort. And then however that gets reutilized. So Joe,
That's my understanding, but we can't.
we can't tell them that we want to.
Yeah, we can't benefit from it in any way.
Yeah, there's some very strict rules. That's, again, Councilor Varwig, under normal circumstances, if we were doing this, I think that would be exactly what we would do, is look for some use like that. But FEMA gives us some pretty narrow guidelines. So we have to run it through their approved process where it goes to a facility. And I would surely hope or presume that they would put it back into some type of good use. But we don't get to direct that part of the process, unfortunately.
Got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Councilor Parker.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'll bring up under councilor comments later the fact that we wouldn't have to do this emergency clause if we increased our city manager's signing authority to 100,000. Point one. Point two, I wanted to restate what I said before, and also the mayor and I both sent out to city staff. We want the citizens of Canby to understand that this is not a decision made by a bunch of bureaucrats or lawyers. This is a decision made by your elected representatives to take down these trees. If you have any heat to give anybody, it comes to us, not to the city staff that is carrying out our wishes. Cutting down trees is a sensitive thing, especially in beloved places like Wheat Park. So I just want the city staff to know that I have their back, as does the mayor. And he was planning to say that tonight, but he's not here, that this is a decision made by your elected officials to take down these trees.
Any further discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none, all those in favor? I see 6 hands, it passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is councilor comments and liaison reports. I'll just go by the screen I'm looking at in front of me. Councilor Bajoran, you first.
Thank you. All right. Cub met on the 20th of January. Just one thing to mention off of that, most of the things talked about were green power donations, quarterly reliability reports, normal standard operations, procedures, things like that. One thing is that the board did move to nominate Melody Thompson to retain her seat as chair. So congratulations to her. And that's about all I've got for tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Banks.
Thank you. The Canby Library Advisory Committee has not met since our last meeting and will be doing so shortly before our next meeting. The Canby School Board had a work session a week ago, and the biggest news out of that is they're changing the school start times. I think district-wide, the high school is shifting forward 1 hour, starting at 8:40 beginning next year. Baker Prairie is also starting at 8:40. I think that might be an hour and 10-minute shift, but I've never worked there or gone to school there. The elementary schools in 91 school are going to be starting at 8 o'clock. And that is all I have to say. I do have a personal message I'd like to give. This is something I've never discussed before the council or in public, and I just feel like I need to make this announcement for public consumption. I'll preface this by saying I ran for office originally because a local right-wing political organization was heavily funding 3 council candidates, and I believed that no council candidates should be tied to any political organizations. And then I've found in my 1 year of serving on the council that 4 times I've had political attacks launched on me by people who I didn't even know were my political enemies. The most recent one was a public records request from Councillor Sean Varwig. It's the 3rd public records request I've had launched against me this year, plus a recall. These are extraordinary measures. I don't believe a city councilor has ever asked for public records from another city councilor. This is normally something that the media might do in trying to get information. The initial request for the 4 councilors that voted against Sean's chosen planning commission members from the meeting last, Councillor Spoon, Bajoran, Councillor Parker, and I have all received the same request. The original one includes any communications we've had with the local media, despite the First Amendment protections for the press, and includes emails that my wife and I have sent to each other through our marriage. I have no idea what possible benefit Sean would get in emails from my wife. That has been subsequently withdrawn. I believe these are a distraction for the city's business. They've taken time away from our city staff in the last week. There's a fee associated with that, but the truth is our city staff has been working on this issue to the detriment of our community. And I'm really disappointed. I think it's a shameful display of political tit for tat. I'm not going to play that game. I think it's beneath the dignity of the city councilor to do this kind of thing to a different city councilor. So I'm not going to be launching any retaliatory measures like this, but I did believe that the public has a right to know this is going on. That concludes my comments tonight.
Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Council President Hensley. I was unable to attend the last CAP meeting, but I did want to give a little update and thank Jerry Nelzine and a group of citizens who have been using the Three Sisters property. It's been a de facto dog park for some time. And what has happened is that a group of citizens have started keeping their own trash can there when people and bags, and when people are using that to clean up after their pets. Actually, the citizens have then been taking the garbage back to dispose themselves. And when this came to our attention through another citizen, we asked staff about it, and Jerry Nelzine stepped up and put some disposal out there so that citizens no longer have to haul garbage off of a public space. So I just wanted to thank those citizens for however long they've been doing this service to the community and to all the people that are currently using it as a dog park. And not the most fun one. So really an active service. And then thanks to city staff and Jerry Nelzine for stepping in because it's really the city's responsibility. And I appreciate the effort. It happened pretty quickly. So just wanted to acknowledge staff and that group of citizens.
Thank you, Councilor Parker.
Yes, thank you. Both of my major liaison assignments will be having meetings, but I did receive the agenda today for the Historic Landmark Commission, and I noticed that they have listed out their entire year on month by month things that they plan to do. Amazing act of planning. And one of the things that they're talking about is a handbook for new members of the Historic Landmark Commission. So I proposed this 3 years and it quickly crashed and burned. But again, we've got different committees and different commissions operating at different levels. Maybe it might be a good idea to have them sharing best practices. That's one. Point 2, today our city administrator had to explain that we were going to go through an emergency procedure to get an ordinance approved twice over a 2-week period because it was $30,000 above his spending limit, which has been authorized at $50,000. I think that needs to be adjusted for inflation and kicked up at least to $100,000. If we want, he can have reporting abilities, requirements back to us. But what we're doing here with this sort of thing is slowing down government and slowing down our ability to respond to things. So this leads me to a question that perhaps our city administrator can respond to in his city manager reports. We received a two sentence email from our mayor today saying that we've got some information coming about our retreat, which will be in a week and 2 days. I've seen no agenda. I don't know if there is a way for me to add this to the agenda. I don't know what the format is. I don't even know what the venue is. Are we meeting in person or virtually? So we're a week away from this thing, and it feels a little sketchy right at this point. So I'm hoping that we are better organized than it appears to be. But I would like to know: are we still in an agenda building period, or has the agenda been set, or is there no agenda at all? Finally, to Councillor Bang's point, I was not going to mention this until he did, but yeah, for the first time in 12 years as a city councilor, I've had another city councilor put in a public records request. My approach was to send an email to that city councilor saying, it appears we have a communications problem. Can we get together and talk about this? Radio silence. So, it's a two-way street. That if we've gotten to the point where the only way that we're going to be sharing information is by suing each other, then I don't think we trust each other, and we've really lost the ability to be a functioning council. So I'm disappointed by this. It is an historic anomaly. And I'm still quite stunned by it.
Thank you, Councilor Parker. I believe, Scott, you can address the agenda and our interviews process with the facilitator session in your comments.
I will.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Councilor Parker.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a liaison report tonight, but I will just say that while we are elected to serve, that does not take away the fact that we are also community members, and those who are also elected to serve still represent us. And when you lose trust in those who represent you, there's things like records requests to make sure that they are on the up and up. And so if they're doing everything correctly, there should be no problem and no issue with the public records request. That's why it exists. So I'll just say that there is a public records request because, yes, as a citizen of Canby, as a voting member of Canby, not as a city councilor, but as a citizen of Canby, I have lost trust in some of my elected officials. And so I have done a public records request to try and regain that trust. I have zero interest in having a conversation with them about it because I have lost trust. And when you don't trust somebody, a conversation won't help. But hopefully a public records request will help clear that up. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Parker. I don't have much of a liaison report at this time, as the C4 meeting and the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee meets tomorrow, and the Traffic Safety Commission meets next Wednesday. So I'll have a further report at the next meeting. I did want my colleagues and the community members to know, if they didn't already, that the Wilsonville Chamber of Commerce is hosting a tolling meeting, a tolling update meeting at the Hilton Garden Inn on February 16th at 8 a.m. It will be a hybrid meeting, so if you aren't interested in attending in person and enjoying coffee and donuts and while you hear it and you just want to sit in your jammies, you are welcome to Zoom in. And I believe the link to that Zoom meeting will be on the Wilsonville Chamber's website. If not, message me and I can forward it in. I believe I received that in an email that I could forward to you. But that should be some good information on the tolling, a good conversation, and maybe a good opportunity to address the questions, mitigating diversion, et cetera. It'll be Senator Bill Kennemer and Commissioner Paul Savas that will be facilitating our conversation at that meeting. And that is all I have. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is City Administrator's business and staff reports. Scott.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I have four items, and I will be touching on the goal setting. The first is just a follow-up that you had requested from your last meeting, that I reach out and contact ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation, and their tolling program people to come back to you, council, and give you a report or a presentation and an update. And I wanted to report back to you on that and tell you that we have that scheduled for your March 2nd meeting. So a couple meetings from now, you'll be getting a presentation from them on their tolling program and update. Second is regarding our continued efforts on the Walnut Street extension, also called our Industrial Park to 99E extension road. This is a project that we know is a high priority for the council. We've continued to make great strides on that. And the next big step, I should say, now that we have completed, as I reported to you recently, we've completed the right-of-way acquisition. And thank you for your support on all of that. We are now entering our final engineering and design process. And this is just informational, nothing for you to do with this at this point. But we are preparing a request for qualifications for the professional services to hire an engineering firm to do that final design, and they'll do everything all the way through the finality of the project being completed, including project oversight and all of that. So we'll be bringing back a contract to you at some point in the hopefully relatively near future. But I just wanted to again kind of keep you apprised that that project, although it seems quiet, there very much is a lot of effort going on to keep that moving, and we're on a good track with that. The third thing is just another brief update on a project, and that is the Quiet Zone and Arch project, our big downtown project. A lot of the work has been completed, but we still have some final things to do. The most visible of those is the completion of the arch. The arch has been installed. The columns are in place. We are still awaiting the completion of the Canby sign, the metallic Canby sign that will go on the arch, and that will be lighted. And then we have some commemorative and interpretive plaques that will go on the columns. Those are being fabricated as we speak. We don't have an exact date as to when that will be done. I'll keep you posted, but that continues to move forward. And then the actual Quiet Zone part of this, our agreement with the railroad is that they will not sign off on the Quiet Zone, and that is, ending the horn honking until we've completed all of the safety improvements. And we've completed most of those, but we need a stretch of dry and reasonably warm weather for a few days straight before we can finalize the striping around those areas. And so that's kind of just a waiting game. And as soon as we have that, we'll finish that. And then we begin the process of asking the railroad to do their final inspection. Looks like I maybe have a question. I'll pause there.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So we're paying them a substantial annual fee for the privilege of them not honking. Has that not started yet then?
That is correct. Yeah, they won't. That doesn't officially start until the project is totally complete, and including those striping of those roadways with all the safety at the crossings. And then they have to actually approve that and sign off, and then that begins that period where it's officially a quiet zone.
The road at Elm, the crossing at Elm, the northbound traffic kind of runs you right into anybody parked at Canby Rental. Would that striping have a little swoop around so the cars know that they're not supposed to drive right into the sideway or the sidewalk parking area?
Great question. I'll have to look into that and check. I would assume there was some thought into that, but I'll verify that.
Question I get most often from citizens is why there's still what appears to be bags over part of the signage. Is that because the striping isn't there yet?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. And then last, the goal setting. Thank you for the question, Council Parker. I was intending to bring this up to you. Yes. So we are scheduled to have our goal setting session on February 11th from 9 to 3. Everything is in motion for that. I realize there's not been information coming your way. We scheduled this on a fairly short lead time, and we've been working with our facilitator. We have a facilitator that has been engaged with us. It's the same person that was going to do this for us last year. We were not able to put this together, and has essentially kind of carried over the contract and the work for us. So we're working rapidly to get things in place. We have a kind of a draft working version of the agenda. And my understanding is that the mayor was going to distribute that to the council, hopefully by end of day today. We also have a kind of a schematic that's, I think it's called the game plan, and it just gives a flavor of what would be in store for the day. So, so the hope is that you will receive this working draft of the agenda. And that would be an opportunity. If you had any feedback, we would be glad to hear that, and we'd pass that on to our facilitator. The agenda will be not the full detailed agenda per se, but sort of the high level agenda of the goal setting session. We're anticipating publishing that by the end of this week, just to give a week public notice. So that's just our public notice requirement. But the council is also going to receive this this more detailed version of an agenda and kind of a work plan for the day. And so that's I guess the answer to your question, Councilor Parker, and it's a very fair one, is we're catching up quickly on kind of having from the time that we set this date, and where we landed on a date that everybody was agreeable on. And by the way, thank you all, because I know we had to kind of work with that a little bit, and some of you, I think, had to maybe rearrange some availability to land on one day, and we very much appreciate that. It really became a lead time issue, and so we're working to get up to speed. I think the good thing is we're building on what we were planning last year, and we had received some feedback from most of you. Councilor Bajorn, I believe our facilitator is going to reach out directly to you, because the other councilors did get an opportunity to interview with her last year, and should be doing that very, very soon. I think we're working on that right now. So again, we think that you will receive the draft agenda, if not by this evening, by tomorrow, and there'll be an opportunity for some feedback there. And so I'll be happy to answer any other questions on that. We're working as quickly as we can.
Okay, I see a hand from Councilor Parker.
Well, I think I'm not the only counselor that's felt that some of our past retreats haven't produced precision decision points. And I'm a week away from this meeting, and I still don't know what our goal is. Is it to provide direction? Is it to establish priorities? Is it preliminary to our budget this year to give advice? I don't know why we're meeting. And if in fact we're scrambling at the last minute to put it together, I'd rather find another date than just meet because we've decided to meet. And frankly, we've had a counselor raise another issue that until the public records meeting or public records request is fulfilled, and I don't think that's going to happen in the next 9 days, that we've got trust issues with over half of the council. So I'll wait to see what shows up in my mailbox tomorrow, but I'm leaving open the fact that we do not have all of the success indicators that I thought we would have by this time.
Any other questions for Scott?
If May I just respond really quickly? Council President, yeah, again, Councilor Parker, you're raising very fair points. I think the information that you're going to receive will answer hopefully most of those questions. But ultimately, this is your goal setting, so you, of course, can do as you please, Council. We, from the staff perspective, I guess I'll just put my plug in and say we would and hope and I would encourage that we proceed with this. We've got a date on the calendar that seems to be agreeable, and if we're able to do that, I think you'll find that there's I think when you see this draft working agenda, you'll see that it has some very precise, I think you used a good term of some precision points and some decision making, and really is the effort is to provide some direction for your goals, and especially heading into the budget season, which we are just on the cusp of entering. So it would certainly be very beneficial to staff, and my hope too is that it would be valuable and beneficial to you. But that certainly is up to you.
I just want to share the concern that Greg has. It sounds like maybe some of it will be resolved, but I don't recall, because the last 2 years are a giant blur for many people. If my conversation with the consultant was last year or the year before, I don't remember what year it even happened at this point. But certainly my priorities and my hopes for the community have shifted a little bit since I initially talked to her. A lot has changed. You are on staff now. We're working on a parks master plan. You know, we have a lot in process now that wasn't in process then. And without seeing an agenda, which I know is coming, but we're coming up on the moment, I'm not even sure that the concerns that the consultant heard about initially are the same ones that I would want to talk about today. And so I don't know how we fix that, because the consultant obviously can't talk to all of us again and put an agenda together, but certainly would like to see that and have an opportunity to adjust our priorities, because priorities shift over time, and it's been a long time since we talked to that consultant.
Again, very good and fair point. I think we did those interviews with those of you that were on the council last year. Yes, that's been a year, so very fair to say, you know, there are some things that may have shifted for some of you, that your feedback might be different now. What I would ask is, if you when you receive this information, if you have any feedback for me that I can pass on to the consultant, that would be helpful. If you have, you know, when you have an opportunity to review that, I would be happy to do that. I would also say there has been a conversation with the consultant of this idea that we're recognizing that this is, you know, a 1 6-hour session is not going to, you know, we're not going to flesh everything out, and it does limit, you know, that is 6 hours will go by pretty quickly. I think we have a good, concise plan though to get to some key points in a pretty rapid time. But there's been discussion, and the consultant would be open and available and prepared to do a follow-up session to this. So this perhaps might even be just, let's just say this might be a round one, and you might come out of this and say, okay, let's take this now and go and refine it further. That would be, of course, up to you, council, whatever your wishes would be. But we've had that discussion that we think this might lead to more discussion, and that you might want to have a follow-up session that we could look at. So I think Councilor Parker, or you, I think it was you that said a little bit ago that maybe holding off if we're not quite ready for this, and if we're, you know, moving fairly quickly. I would just urge, if you'd be so inclined to be open to this, that we would go forward with this one next week, and then we would look to schedule an additional session as we've sort of had this discussion and refine. That's one thought. Looks like there might be another question.
Thank you. I have a procedural question. When we get this agenda, hopefully real soon, and we want to discuss the agenda before the actual meeting on February 11th, is it? Can we do that over email? It's not really it's a deliberation about a meeting, not a deliberation about city business. I just don't know what the public records or public meeting law requirements are in that. In other words, if things that I'd like to have brought up on the agenda aren't there, is there a way for me to address that without violating public meeting laws?
Well, I think you'll probably hear something here from our attorney, and I'll let him do that. But I think the answer is we don't want you to reply to the rest of your council mates to any of those emails about that. But I would ask you to send your comments and your feedback, if you would, to me. I can accumulate those, and we are working with the facilitator to put everything together. So I can certainly share that information. So Joe, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, the one thing you want to avoid is deliberating towards any sort of decision, right, as a body without having a public meeting. The way you can look at this as everyone's sending equally information to Scott. Scott's not disseminating it back to you, so there is no deliberative process between you guys. But what he will do is share that with the facilitator, who she's kind of putting together, and I know you haven't seen the information, but she's kind of putting together almost like a synthesized, like, I don't know, like a map almost of the way in which she thinks the discussion can kind of lead from one area to another to kind of work together towards commonality and universal goals and such like that. So I think she'll plug that into her system that she kind of runs groups through. So it isn't you making a decision by giving Scott your information, so you can feel good about not violating public meetings law.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay, seeing none, do you have anything else, Scott?
No, thank you.
Okay, moving to citizen input. It's a second opportunity for citizens to have input. Do we have any other input? No, we do not. Okay, Maya, action review.
You have approved the consent agenda, adopted ordinance number 1567, and passed ordinance number 1568 to a second reading on February 16th, 2022.
Thank you, Maya. Okay, we are going to be moving into executive session. Before we adjourn, I'm going to read this little blurb we're supposed to read. The city council will enter into executive session for the purpose to consult with council concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. The executive session is pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent H, which allows the agency to meet in executive session to discuss this topic. Only representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. The council is meeting virtually in executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in the executive session, and at the end of this session, there will be no further business. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed.
I'll second that.
It has been moved by Councilor Spoon and seconded by Councilor Bangs, and an adjournment is not a debatable motion. So all those in favor? 6-0. Good night, Canby.